Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Padajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Padajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Mr. Pad Paramahansa Parivrtakacharya Ashtotar to the Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrtakacharya Ashtotar to the Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnava ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 9th day of August, 2022 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are on text 19 of chapter 5, Karma Yoga, Action and Krishna Consciousness. at the top of page 247. I checked all the books. The page numbers are the same. Okay. Ihaiva, Tair, Jita, Sargo, Yesham, Samye, Sitam Manaha, Nirdosham, Hisamam, Brahma, Tasmad, Brahmani, Testitaha, Ihaivatar Jitak Sargo, Yesham Samye Stitam Manaha, Nirdosham Hisamam Brahma, Tasma Brahmani Testitaha, Ihaivatar Jitak Sargo, Yesham Samye Stitam Manaha, Nirdosham Hisamam Brahma, Tasma Brahmani Testitaha, Ihaivatar Jitak Sargo, Yesham Samye Stitam Manaha, Nirdosham Hisamam Brahma, Tasmad Brahmani Testitaha. Ihaivatar Jitak Sargo, Yesham Samye Stitam Manaha, Nirdosham Hisamam Brahma, Tasmad Brahmani Testitaha. Ihaivatar Jitak Sargo, Yesham Samye Stitam Manaha, Nirdosham Hisamam Brahma, Tasmam Brahmani Testitaha. Haribol. We're on page 247. I'll read the word by words. Iha, in this life, eva, certainly, tai, by them, jitaha, conquered, sargaha, birth and death, yesham, whose, samye, in equanimity, stitam, situated, manaha, mind, nirdosham, flawless, he, certainly, samam, in equanimity, Brahma, like the Supreme, tasmat, therefore, Brahmani, in the Supreme, te, they, stitaha, are situated. Now, this is the first time I'm using this air conditioning, and it's too much. But instead of me running over there, can you just open the door? Yeah. Okay. Half notice, like? Yeah, a couple of feet. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Maybe that'll help. Okay. Translation. Those whose minds are established in sameness and equanimity have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. They are flawless like Brahman, and thus they are already situated in Brahman. Purport. Equanimity of mind, as mentioned above, is the sign of self-realization. Those who have actually attained to such a stage should be considered to have conquered material conditions, specifically birth and death. As long as one identifies with this body, he is considered a conditioned soul. But as soon as he is elevated to the stage of equanimity through realization of self, he is liberated from conditional life. In other words, he is no longer subject to taking birth in the material world, but can enter into the spiritual sky after his death. The Lord is flawless because he is without attraction or hatred. Similarly, when a living entity is without attraction or hatred, he also becomes flawless and eligible to enter into the spiritual sky. Such persons are to be considered already liberated, and their symptoms are described below. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master Open my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara, the disciplic succession. Okay. So, this idea of being situated in sameness, this was described in the previous verse, famous verse, Vidya Vinaya Sampane Brahmane Gebihastini. The humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahman, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog-eater or outcast. So, once again, Krishna is speaking about the basic principles of spiritual realization. And it all begins with understanding that we're pure spirit, we're not these bodies. That the body is a covering of the soul, very temporary, and it consists of the body that we usually call the body that we see in the mirror, called the gross body, the hands, the legs, and the bones, and all of these things. Then the subtle body of mind, intelligence, and ego, progressively more subtle. None of those are us. But without a source of higher knowledge or a discipline to realize that knowledge, we inevitably fall into that identification. And it's similar to the animals. The animals. If someone is born, I mean, the basic principle is that as spirit soul, we're eternal, pure particle of spirit, of consciousness. We never were born, we never die. But we've been in this material world since time immemorial. The whole material world, the whole universes have been created and destroyed, and we've been occupying various bodies and various species and various planets when it manifests. And then when it becomes unmanifest, we merge back into the body of Mahavishnu, and we go into a state of suspended animation. We're not dead, but we're not aware or anything. It's just like deep, deep sleep. And that lasts for a long, long time. And then, but we still have our latent karmas and our unfulfilled desires in our subtle body. The subtle body is not destroyed at that time. And so when the creation occurs again, we eventually take up residence in just the perfect species or perfect body to try to fulfill those unfulfilled desires. And this has been going on for millions and millions of years, millions of births. So this is not our natural state. This is a state of alienation from our real home in the spiritual world, where there's no dichotomy between the inner and outer self. We're all pure spirit. Krishna, or God, is pure, always pure spirit. He has a spiritual body called Satchidananda Vigraha. Vigraha means body, and Sat means eternal, full of knowledge, full of bliss. That is our nature. But we've lost touch with it. Because we're minute, we have a tendency to lose touch with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and to become enwrapped in this material energy, which is dead. It's not conscious. That's the nature of the material energy. Krishna will explain this in the 7th chapter, where he very nicely describes my energy, Boomer, Apple, Onalo, Vayu, Kangmano, Buddhadeva, Cha. Ahankara itiyame binna prakatir ashtada. Ashtada means 8. It says, this material world is comprised of my 8 separated material energies, from gross to subtle. We're all aware of them. We live with them all the time. Solid matter, we call it earth. Earth, water, or all liquids. Earth, water, fire. Fire includes electricity or fires in a fireplace and like that. Radiant energy. Earth, water, fire, air. We know air exists. We can't see it, but we can sense it. We can touch it. It's a powerful force. And then there's ether, which is even subtler, which is the space in which everything is located. And then there's our more subtle energy, mind. We all have a mind, obviously, but we can't see it, can't taste it, touch it, but it's very real. Intelligence, discriminating power, judgment, and things, which is distinct from the mind. The mind is a repository of all kinds of sensations, and it reacts according, is this pleasurable or painful? And the mind will say, okay, go here and try to get this, avoid that. That's why it said here, attraction and hatred, is two things. One is flawless, without attraction or hatred. Raga and dvesha in Sanskrit. Raga, dvesha. Now in the 2nd chapter, Krishna has this wonderful verse describing how one can escape from the thrall or the control of the lower energy. He has these two verses, and we can all experience this. Dhyayato vishayan pangsa sangateshu bhajayate sangat sanjayate kama kamat krodo bhajayate krodat bhavati sammoha sammohat smiti vibhrama smiti brankshat buddhinasha buddhinashat punashiti. He's describing there how the living entity, under the control of the material energy, becomes attracted to enjoy something. Maybe the opposite sex, some food, some position. There's a million different things you can become attracted. The modern society is very adept at trying to implant material desires in your heart. This is what advertising is all about, multi-billion-dollar. And now with social media and all of these different things, they try to custom make the advertising for you. They know that you like, red woolen things, so they advertise that, and obviously. So these are all desires. This is the kama. So dhyayato vishayan, by meditating or becoming absorbed in the objects of the senses. It happens all the time. One develops, if they're just right, attraction for them. Dhyayato vishayan is the object. Dhyayato vishayan is sangas. One gets attracted, and if it gets stronger, it becomes lust. It becomes a very powerful force of attraction. But that's inevitably frustrated. Ultimately, nothing ever meets, because we want to enjoy eternally, but these things, if they give some pleasure, it's very temporary. So that produces frustration. And this is called krodha. It's called anger, disappointment, So krodha, and it becomes very angry because you think someone is stopping me from enjoying, then krodha bhavati sang mohat, you become bewildered. You may do something you would never do in your ordinary consciousness. You may punch someone, you kill someone, all kinds of things. So this is the danger of becoming too much attracted to things in this world. You become frustrated. Somewhat smriti vibhrama, and if you stay bewildered in that way, you lose your memory. Who am I? What is my actual role? Oh, how could I act in that way? It's out of character for me, but sorry, come with us. Somewhat smriti vibhrama. Smriti brankshat buddhi nasho, and then the intelligence becomes compromised and you fall into the material pool. So this is a syndrome that is endemic to being in the material world, especially in the human form of life. So what's the cure? Next verse, pertinent to this verse. It says raga, not the next verse, the next verse after the ones I quoted in the second chapter. Raga dvesha vimuktais vishayan indriyaischadhan atmavashay vidayatma prasadam adhigacchati. How to get the prasadam? We all want the prasadam. Usually in ISKCON, prasadam means something to eat. But it really means the grace of the Lord. It often comes in the form of food or so many things. So here he says, raga dvesha vimukta, if you become free from attraction and repulsion, attraction and hatred, vimuktais too, how can you do that? Raga dvesha muktais too, vishayan indriyaischadhan. And the test is, even when there are objects around in your senses, or meeting your senses, that could be attractive, but you're keeping your equilibrium. Meaning that you're not, repelled by things and developing hatred, and you're not attracted and forced to try to engage. You're equipoised. That's in the previous verse. How he sees everyone equally. Vishaya Atma Vashaya, controlling the self, Vidhe Atma, by practicing the regulative principles of freedom. It's a wonderful phrase that Prabhupada has. Vidhi means instructions. Just like if you come in touch with the Hare Krishnas, it won't be long before they maybe give you a card. There's the mantra cards you have. Chant the Hare Krishna, and your life will be sublime. This is the basic sadhana or practice, is chanting the holy name. But there are others, do's and don'ts. No intoxication, no meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex. These do's and don'ts develop your spiritual awareness so that you can remain equipoised even when there's means of attraction or repulsion, then you can remain equipoised. And that equipoise is very important for the further practicing of devotional service. And so here it says, those whose minds are established in the sameness, equipoise, and equanimity have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. Because what brings us back again at birth after birth are these unfulfilled desires, which are planted within our mind. We may completely forget about them, but with the right stimuli, the right environment, they come out again. Oh, yeah, I remember I used to enjoy that strawberry shortcake when I was a kid. Yeah, I really want, give me a big piece. The desire is planted in there. And so there's thousands of those. But the process of devotional service, of bhakti yoga, I love this word, sublimates your desire. So instead of the desire for this and that food, and you go to the supermarket, you get bewildered, prasadam. Oh, so wonderfully produced, Did they make pakors? Yes, they made pakors and offered them to Radha Giridhari. Okay, let me have one, And after a short time of taking prasadam, you find your taste for other food is gone, and you can be completely fulfilled. It becomes a sacrament. Eating doesn't become a means of deepening your entanglement in the material world. It becomes a means of expressing your relationship with God. The food is meant to be prepared with great attention and love, knowing, oh, the Lord will eat this. This is for Krishna's pleasure. And then we take the remnants, and we are appreciative of the Lord supplying this to us, and how nicely you appreciate the devotion that it's prepared with, and it becomes a spiritual experience. This is a very important aspect of devotional service, and the way that our acharyas have set down the science of Krishna consciousness, every aspect of your life can be made sacred by taking instruction from the experienced acharyas and from the Shastra. Just like here, Krishna is giving us good instruction. And he's describing, we'll get, of course, more of this as the book goes on, but he's describing how it's possible to cultivate a consciousness so that you become disentangled from your absorption in the material world, and your attention and your faith, as described in this beautiful verse we had in text 17, one whose intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme, means in the Supreme Lord, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgivings, those are doubts, through complete knowledge, and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation. So how to fix intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge in the Supreme Lord, that's the science of Bhakti Yoga. So, and here he's saying that if you achieve this equanimity, raga, dvesha, vimukta, being free from a strong material attachment and repulsion, these are two sides of the same coin. We don't want to be attracted to this material world for enjoyment, nor do we want to walk around with a grudge and a hatred for things. Those are two sides. What we want is vairagya, which means detachment, neither attraction nor repulsion. But not detachment from everything, detachment from, and a strong attachment to Krishna. And that's how to get it. By cultivating our attraction to God and service to God, then all these material attractions, they gradually diminish, and we can be equipoised in this world. And it's a very valuable state of mind to be able to have, because this world is full of ups and downs and challenges and things. And the final challenge, after all, the final exam is death. Is that if you can remain equipoised, even as death is coming, realizing, well, I'm just taking off a coat. This is Krishna's teaching right in the second chapter. Vasangsi jinani yata vihaya granati nirvana naro parani. That the living entity, ultimately the body wears out just like any machine or a garment, and you discard it and you take on a new one. So we want our next body to be spiritual. And that's possible to get if we cultivate the right consciousness. And that's what Krishna is describing. Go ahead.
No, Prabhu. Basically, no anxiety if we have like detachment, if we are not strongly attached to a specific, let's say, car, or
yes.
A number of, people want to make money, they have a number. You're not attached to anything, even in your relationship, your friendships, whatever it is.
There's no strong material attachment or repulsion, but we really cultivate detachment from matter. The vairagya means not strong attachment and not strong repulsion. And so that's the state he's describing here. But we should try to increase the way that's increase as strong as possible our attachment for Krishna.
Right.
And we see in Lord Chaitanya's Leela, if you read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, how it can be increased up to the ultimate level, Well, Yugaitam Nameshena Chakshusha Pravashaitam, Lord Chaitanya in the mood of Radharani, you think, every moment drags on like 1,000,000 years or more. From the rain clouds of my eyes, the tears and torrents pour. This whole creation is nothing but a vast and joyless void. O Govinda, by your absence I am being destroyed. Now that's the very, very powerful attachment which we want. That's wholesome attachment to Krishna. And because, just think of it this way, that there's no doubt about it in my mind, even though I'm not a pure devotee, I'm not experiencing bhava and prema all the time, but there's no question there's a great joy in being Krishna conscious. We experienced it. You were you were there with the Ratha Yatra, chanting Lord Jagannath, the chanting of the holy name, Hare Krishna mantra. The more you're experienced at it, you're focusing on it. There's an unquestionable joy there. You can go on hour after hour. It doesn't diminish. It doesn't cost anything. So where is that happiness coming from? It's not coming from the sensations of the senses, which burn out after a short time. It's coming from in your heart. It's coming from the soul, and the soul is not bound by the limits of matter. If you can open up that channel of bhakti, of pleasing Krishna and feeling the reciprocation and the joy of the holy name, of chanting the holy name, then wherever you are, no matter, just like the Goswamis showed, they lived as austere as possible to live. Forget these homeless people here, these unfortunate people. They're living on the street, they don't have a home, but they're miserable. But the Goswamis, they didn't have a home. They lived under a different tree every night. They didn't even have, this is my tree. No. A different tree. So they didn't have a spring. And they had lived with loincloths, eating once a day, if that's, hardly sleeping, even the basic necessities of life. But it says, Gopi Bhavada Sarmatam Dalhalika Lola Magno Mahur. That again and again they were diving in the highest and most intense levels of Krishna Bhakti, which is the love of the gopis for Krishna, relishing all the different varieties of that relationship. And so they were always in bliss. So that's an extremely high level, but we can come to the point where we can be satisfied with very little. We don't need a lot to, the basic necessities of life. As long as we have sadhu sangha, the association of devotees, and the facility for meeting together, worshiping the Lord like that. So that's what Prabhupada showed us. Simple living, high thinking. That's the...
Yeah. Okay. And yesterday you mentioned that there were so many Bhagavad Gita written in the past as well, but not many devotees, no one converted as a devotee.
No one.
But I believe Prabhupada, not just the way he written Bhagavad Gita, he introduced the whole process of bhakti, right from chanting, prasadam, offering, like I think he gave an environment which facilitated people to become devotees more easily and absorb Krishna consciousness.
For sure. It was divinely inspired. For him to come to America, Lower East Side, I lived on the Lower East Side. At that time, in 1968, I was living there a couple of years later, which I think was Krishna's arrangement. If I had joined in 66, how could I be an editor? They had Hayagriva, he's a college professor in English. What do they need me for, Anyway, so I lived there. And it's as far away as you can imagine from the banks of the Yamuna River in Vrindavan. That was an idyllic, environment to practice devotional service. But Prabhupada was impelled by the order of his spiritual master, inspired. He had the direct darshan, I swear. This is Rupa Goswami's disappearance day. There's an account where he recounts how Rupa Goswami came to him while he's in Radha Damodar temple writing. And he's facing this challenge of trying to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world, to the English-speaking world. He's already 68 years old. He doesn't have any money, doesn't have any followers, but he has this order, and he has a prediction of Lord Chaitanya. So Rupa Goswami says, you try, you go to the West, you write these books, and I'll help you, you'll succeed. He actually had darshan of Rupa Goswami. So, and he was, and so amazingly, if you read we should read the story, the Lilamrita, which has the most detail, of the struggles and the surrender and the, reverses he had health-wise and so many other ways. And even after founding ISKCON, managing it and things. I mean, this Juhu temple was built in Bombay, which is quite a story. Giriraj Swami has written that book. You probably read it, right? Probably read it several times. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, he's fighting to get this land, and then his leaders come, and they said, no, and they actually give the land back. But the cheater who was trying to cheat us out of it was so foolish that instead of getting us off the land, giving us the money back, he tried to keep the money. So there was legally we still had the anyway. It worked out. I visited there in '77 before it came up, before it was open, and I saw that little hut that they had the deities in. It was amazing, that Radha Rasa Bihari. Well, so determined to stay there that they didn't leave at all. So anyway, it is possible to take inspiration. We should take inspiration from Srila Prabhupada's life and from his struggles, and realize that if we surrender, that Krishna can empower us, and we can overcome our disqualifications and have a secure place at his lotus feet. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna. I just wanted to know, I heard this talk by Bhakti Swami, and I wanted to know your thoughts on it. He said the conditioned soul means glorification of oneself. But earlier you said, I was listening upstairs, you said that, what's it called, conditioned soul. I forgot what you said exactly.
Yeah, that's an interesting way of taking it, but it's actually true. Where all is that I'm this body and I have this identity and everything is related to the color of my skin, how much money I have, all these things, and so you're trying to find a way to enjoy in this body, and that's a kind of glorification, the ego, but it's a bankrupt enterprise, because eventually. You're brought low in this. Even if you succeed for some time, if it's some years, eventually the passage of time just takes the life energy out of this body. And then where is your pride? Where is your glory? Where is your feeling of being able to enjoy and dominate? It's just a series of defeats. You're eventually defeated, undoubtedly. So it's completely illogical. The whole material enterprise, building up all the technology and the big cities and all of the stuff that we have. What's the situation now? Because of the climate change, because we're wrecking. In other words, the mode of ignorance means let me enjoy now. To heck with tomorrow. And you can see that the whole world is operating on that more or less. I'll extract all of this fossil fuel, burn it, and I'll have this money. I'll make so much money and enjoy, But then at a certain point, it becomes empty. You can't enjoy it anymore. You have this disease, that disease, death is facing you, And so glorification, yeah, but conditioned life means you can look at it that way. You're trying to glorify this body. I think for most animals, and they're not even aware of that, they're just living moment to moment. Trying to survive. I gave the example of the little bugs I try not to step on when I take my walk. It's like a crisis. You can imagine there's a being who's like 100,000 pounds bigger than you, and there's this big clumping going on. They probably sense I'm coming, stepping, and then there's the danger. And what to do? Should I freeze and hope it doesn't step on me, or should I jump this way, that way, like that? Of course, they're not thinking. It's all instinct. But that's their life, and we could easily be there. In other words, we've been through all of that, and it's it doesn't make any sense. Once you accept, even theoretically, that you're an eternal soul, that I've lived before in many, many different experiences, and I'll live again, then trying to eke out sense pleasure in this life doesn't make any sense. It only makes sense if this is the only life that we'll ever live. then you might as well try to enjoy as much as possible and then die. But that's not the truth. That's why the first lesson, unless you accept the first lesson, that I'm eternal, jayate mriyate vakadacham, right there at the beginning of the first line. There's no birth, there's no death in any time for the living entity, for the soul. We are eternal, which is a breathtaking realization. But then it has implications of how you have to live as that eternal soul. What is our eternal identity? Where is our eternal home? Who am I? How can I stop the suffering? All right, I have to reform my consciousness. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
I have one more. And you also said that our attachments are, the reason why we take birth again is so we can fulfill our desires in this material world.
Yes, that and our karma.
Yeah, and our karma. Now, if you want to look at on that aspect, Krishna's associates, his pure devotees, they take birth in this material world. And we understand that birth, they say, is painful and, kind of troublesome. Is their birth painful, and what is their...
Arjun, you know how to turn this thing off?
No. I do.
All right, you turn it off, because I can't hear. I know it's cooler, but it's not worth it. I think by now it's cool enough. My apartment is really hot. I was trying to get cooler. Dualities.
Yeah, so I was just saying, as a pure devotee of Krishna, when they take birth in this material world, is it that they go through the same process as we do as conditioned souls, or
no? No, they're sent here. In other words, they're on assignment. They don't go through the same confusion and the same dualities and things that we go through.
And is that their desire to be sent here to serve Krishna? Well,
there are different ways that Prabhupada explained it. But their desire ultimately is to please Krishna. And so even though they may be reluctant, whatever, they come and they accept the assignment. And that's, Prabhupada even described how he was, when he would have dreams and Bhaktisiddhanta would be coming in his dreams and want him to take sannyas. He was a householder and he was a devotee. He was doing much to support the Gaudiya Math. But at a certain point, it became, his godbrothers would tell him he needed to take sannyas, and Bhaktisiddhanta was telling him. And he said he was horrified. Haribol. He said he was horrified that he was going to take sannyas, supposedly. So, these are pastimes. Prabhupada is the eternal associate of the Lord. He's Nityasiddha. And he was empowered by his spiritual master desire and by Lord Krishna, Lord Chaitanya, to do what he did. It's incredible to contemplate, the hardships that he undertook and the determination that he had to do what he did. So they're not ordinary people, and that's why we revere them as acharyas, as Nityasiddhas, Krishna's representatives. Sakshat Daditvena. Sakshat Daditvena Samasta Shastra. All the Shastras and all the sadhus, they declare that one should worship the spiritual master on the level of worshiping Krishna, because he represents Krishna. He's the only way we can really experience Krishna directly. So therefore, it's Krishna's mercy that he sends him. All right, let's do another one. Yeah. Text 20, right? Na parishe priyam prapya nodvijay prapya priyam sthita buddhira sammudho brahmavid brahmanistitaha. A person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, who is unbewildered, and who knows the science of God, is already situated in transcendence. Purport. The symptoms of a self-realized person are given herein. The first symptom is that he is not illusioned by the false identification of the body with his true self. He knows perfectly well that he is not this body, but is the fragmental portion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is therefore not joyful in achieving something, nor does he lament in losing anything which is related to his body. This steadiness of mind is called sthita buddhi, or self-intelligence. He is therefore never bewildered by mistaking the gross body for the soul, nor does he accept the body as permanent and disregard the existence of the soul. This knowledge elevates him to the station of knowing the complete science of the Absolute Truth, namely Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. He thus knows his constitutional position perfectly well, without falsely trying to become one with the Supreme in all respects. This is called Brahman realization or self-realization. Such steady consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna. All right, I forgot to bring my little app, my drumming app and tambour app. But I still want to share with you. Today is the glorious disappearance day of Srila Rupa Goswami. Huh? You have a tambura. Is it in tune? Oh. Go and get it. So this morning I was singing in Nunila, Manamanjula. Did you hear it? I don't know if you heard the class yet. So I'm going to share a few other verses by Rupa Goswami. And it actually completely, everything, supports the other thing, the Bhagavad Gita, the verses that how to become fully satisfied in Krishna consciousness. So there's one line in the 8 verses about the 6 Goswamis. Gopi bhava rasam tablati kallola magno mahur. That was it. What is that? Now I'm embarrassed because I don't remember it. But it says that they're saving us from the devouring maw of Mayavad by pouring down songs about Govinda. You see? In other words, once you experience and get into the flow of Krishna Bhakti and Bhakti Rasa, then you're immune. You're immune from lamentation and lust and all of these things. And you can actually be equipoised, like it's described here, amongst things that would normally be very pleasing and frightening and all of these things. And that's such a valuable condition of life to have, this mentality, that you can go through life and kind of float along and not be battered this way and that way by the waves of material energy. That's when you get on the ship of the boat of Krishna's lotus feet. What is that famous verse? This one I remember. Samashita ye padapallava plavam mahatpatam bunni yasho morare pavambudi vatsaparam padam 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 yadvipadam natesham. So this world is just like an ocean. Bhava ambudya. Bhava means becoming. It's always changing. And there are dangers at every step. There are dangers at every turn. So, but one who takes shelter of the boat of the lotus feet of Krishna, who is the place where all the at whose lotus feet all the Mahatmas rest and take shelter, then that ocean shrinks down to the amount of water in a calf's hoof print. And you can easily cross beyond it. And you're in the spiritual world. Not for those who have taken shelter of the Lord's lotus feet firmly is this place which is full of dangers at every step, because they're in the Vaikuntha world where there's no anxiety and no danger. So that's a real reality. That's the reality, and we want to try to experience it more and more. So I'm not going to wait. I'm going to start because I think we're running out of time. So you didn't hear. You weren't here. Were you here in class this morning? No. Okay. So and you know it very well. So so this is a song by Rupa Goswami, glorifying Krishna as he who enjoys in the groves and gardens of Vrindavan. Kunja Bihari. That's what Kunja Bihari means. So I'll just sing it. You've heard it many times before. But Indra mani mandala vana pullani pukusamanchitakarna and Krishna labada kushora sihari sundaro jayati kunja bihari. His smooth complexion conquers sapphires stunning to the eye. Kadamba blooms with fragrance full on each ear gently lie. His beauty is greatened by his chest, where Gunja necklace stays. All glories to the Lord, who in Vrindavan's forest plays. Radhika Vadana Chandra Chakora, Sarva Ballabha Vaduta Tichora. Charcharicha to the Tancha the Chari Charato. Jayati Kunja Bihari, Jayati Kunja Bihari. Chakora longing for the moon of Radha's radiant face. A thief purloining patience from the cowherd's wives apace. His expert rhythmic dancing winning all the gopis' praise. All glories to the Lord who in Vrindavan's forest plays. Sarvatak Patila Kaula Kapava, Dwangsanena Ritabasa Bhagab, Koshta Rakshana Kategidid Hari Leelaya. Jayat Kunja Bihari. When Indra's sacrifice he stopped, he stole the Deva's pride. By playfully uplifting Giri Govardhan to hide his friends and cows beneath the hill for 7 nights and days. All glories to the Lord who in Vrindavan's forest plays. Ragamandala Vibhushita Vangshi Vibhramena Badanosa Vishangsi Stuyamana Chaditakshaka Shari Shrenabir Jayat Kunja Bihari. Heartwarming warbling melodies adorn his flute which sings of Cupid's fest, to him unending happiness it brings. The pirate pair his loving pastimes never tire to praise. All glories to the Lord who in Vrindavan's forest plays. Shat kumbha dujihad dukula keke chanda gavarajita chula Nammeyo vanala sadvajanare ranjano Jayati Kunja Bihari. Is it in tune?
You said it wasn't tuned, actually.
Was not tuned?
Yeah.
Well, then I won't be able to tune it now.
Yeah.
Just hold on a minute. His glistening silken garments steal aglow by gold possessed. His crown of perfect peacock plumes defeats all other crests. Vrindavan's radiant girls rejoice to sing his loving ways. All glories to the Lord who in Vrindavan's forest plays. Then Stastaki Kudasugandhi Patira Swanakantish Padishobikatira Radiko Natabayo Naravari Kunjaro Jayat Kunja Bihari. Most fragrant sandal paste anoints his limbs so slightly blue. A splendid golden belt adorns his waist. He's likened to an elephant bound by the ropes of Radha's winning ways. All glories to the Lord who in Vrindavan's forest plays. Gaudadata Tilakoja Labhala Kili Chantalita Champakamala Adnikanda Dagahesha Bisari Sumbuvan Jayat Kunja Bihari. His fulgent forehead glows with golden tilak he's applied. His playful pastimes swing his champak garland side to side. He meets the gorgeous gopis for their rendezvous in caves. All glories to the Lord who in Vrindavan's forest plays. Vibramota Dadugantananvitya Chipta Gopalalanakalakritya Prema Matta Vishabhanu Kumari Nagaro Jayat Kunja Bihari. Their work ignored, the cowards' wives are nearly paralyzed when dancing glasses strike them from the corners of his eyes. Ecstatic heroes setting love-mad Radha's heart ablaze. All glories to the Lord who in Vrindavan's forest plays. Ashtakam Madhuda Kunja Bihari Kridaya Patatiya Kilahari Sapriyati Bilasat Parabhagam Tasyapar Kamalach Ragam. The pastimes that the Lord enjoys, Braja's sylvan bowers, enhance this octave's beauty and pour forth pure nectar showers. Whoever hears these verses soon acquires saintly traits, and serves his luscious lotus fleet with love that ne'er abates. Oh, Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Okay, time for one or two more.
Can I ask one question?
Is it you need a mic?
Sure. It's similar to what I asked last night, but does the Paramatma stay in the spiritual world, the spiritual body also?
The Paramatma is not in the spiritual world.
Oh.
Yeah, there's no need of the Paramatma there because everything is spiritual.
Thank you.
Yeah. There's no Paramatma there. That's only here. Okay. We're going to tune it up, but we won't have it for now. That's quite a beautiful tempura. So this is a prayer that I offer every day when we greet the deities. We get to Radha Krishna, Radha Giridhari. Pashupala Badanandano Badametang Maharata Yeyumam and Bhavatu Panayo Bhave Bhave and Bhavatore Vabadam Bhujeshume. O Radha Krishna, children of the best of cowherd men, this single boon I beg from you again and yet again. And all the countless births my endless sins will make me meet. Let all my love flow toward your luscious, lustrous lotus feet. And here's another one. Describing Krishna's flute. Udari katamudadi databangam navadadadadikidanola sadangam hubadivadaya datamananatadangam pranamatiyam tatikitadangam. His flute emanates entrancing sounds for the girls whose love for him abound. Bow down to the cloud complexion Lord who's dancing upon the Kalindi shore. And then, one of my favorites, quoted in the Stabhamala, I believe. Manasada Panajushte, Labnda Patos Midushte, Timanagahna Rupe, Hanta Sangsara Kupe, Ajatanakala Laksha Mundara Daksham Upanayamamahaste, Bhakti Rajun Namaste. Fallen in this deep and dark and dirty well of Maya, threatened by the snake of lust whose venom burns like fire, helplessly I pray, O Lord, whose strength is ne'er in doubt, place the rope of bhakti in my hands and pull me out. The next one is not by Rupa Goswami, but it's one of my favorites. You can learn this one. Madoram, Madoram, Bapadasivibo, Madoram, Madoram, Badanam, Madoram. Madogam Nimadusmitameta, the whole Madoram, 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 Madoram. Sweet, sweet is my dear Lord's form, sweet is still his face so fair, but his honey-scented gentle smile is sweet beyond compare. And then one final one. Again by Bhupamangal Thakur, near the end of the Krishna Karnamrita. Jaya 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 Deva 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 Chubhavana Mangala Divyanama Deha and Jaya 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 Deva Krishna Deva Shravanamano Nayanama Tavatara. Oh glory, 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 Lord, oh glory unto thee, who with thy holy name bless all three worlds and set them free. Oh glory, glory, glory unto thee, O Krishna Dev, whose nectar floods our ears and eyes and hearts in endless waves. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol. So there it is, permanently on YouTube forever. Of course, the Mayapur, did you see that one? Shikshastak?